The treasure you seek is in the cave you least want to enter. Life is to strive and to struggle, not to succeed. And we are back with another reflection on the daily Vedantic. And the last few weeks, I have been watching a few of these near-death experience videos on YouTube. There's some really cool, well-made ones that are gripping with the storytelling. There's each story and background seems so different. The people in them seem to have such different backgrounds, and yet the stories are the experience of a near-death experience. There's so many patterns between them. I've only seen maybe 3, but in the last few weeks, but I have sent one of them out to a handful of friends. And those videos are cool in their own right. It's YouTube, snacking to watch those 15, 20-minute videos and interviews with people that have those kinds of experiences. I will say what Vedanta would say about those experiences is that is still mind. If you have this personality, because they notice even in the experience, they'll have their name communicated to them, like Andy, let go, or Andy, welcome home, which is the one I think I saw yesterday or the day before. There's still an ego there. There's still a personality, a illusion, belief that you are a personality. That is, at least, take it or leave it, what the philosophy would say is that still the mind projecting an illusion of separateness, separation. I will also say that a lot of these experiences, the ones that I've heard, seem to also, they toe the line of that individualistic separation and this feeling of unity wherever that home is. It's usually through a tunnel of light, like the cliche thing that we hear 1,000 times. Seems to be a pattern with many of these people. Maybe that's why we always hear about that tunnel of light. But that is neither here nor there. Just a fun little aside. But that term, near-death experience, it got me thinking. Within the world we live in here, and an episode we did recently called The Future Tense. That episode talked about within the Gita, there is a quality of the demonic person, the person that is not in touch with the divine and has nothing to do with horns or being red and coming from some fiery pit. It's far more nuanced, far more sophisticated, far more insidious in its articulations of the qualities of the demonic person, which we all can identify with, one of which is they say, I will give, I will sacrifice, I will rejoice. That equality of a demonic person, as dramatic as that sounds, quality of that type of person that is within all of us is this subtle but dangerous perspective of, I will give. Oh yeah, I totally will be generous down the road. Oh yeah, I will sacrifice. Oh, I will rejoice. Right now, it's all about worrying. It's all about making sure I get mine, making sure that I'm in a stable place, and then I'll be able to help others. And we spend our entire lives thinking, oh yeah, around the corner. I'll do that around the corner. I'll sacrifice around the corner. I'll do what I ought to do around the corner, down the road. Joseph Campbell, a known Vedantin, initiated Vedanta. I think he was the secretary of the Vedanta Society of New York for a few years. In fact, and he is famous for The Hero's Journey, a book called A Hero with a Thousand Faces, and his study in the 20th century around all of the world's mythologies. And Joseph would use this phrase that the treasure you seek is in the cave you least want to enter. So many of us go through life putting off what we ought to do until it's too late. Creating grooves in our mind of, I'll do that later. I'll do that later. We might even know deep down, okay, the treasure we seek is through falling into my duty, my obligation, a situation that might not be super stable or safe, but it is what I ought to do. And we might know that deep down, but still choose a path of worry, of selfish concern, choosing the safe path. Recently, we did an episode on the spiritual bypass, coming up with a really sophisticated, maybe even spiritual reason to justify not doing what we know deep down. Okay, this would be sacrifice. This would be service. This would be duty. Or we think, okay, life is meant to be pain, suffering, and I'll rejoice down the road. There's this middle path, as the Buddhists say, and as Swami will talk about often. And it's in his best known book, Vedanta Treatise, talking about the middle path. There is a middle path where you are not foregoing all sacrifice in your pure indulgence, but you're also not tied to a life of pain, victimization, narrative of suffering, to where you're like, oh, rejoicing isn't for me. Or down the road, once these wrongs are righted, then I'll be able to rejoice. The middle path, the divine being, is the one that is giving, is sacrificing, and at the exact same time is rejoicing. So I may also say the phrase that life is not to succeed, it's to strive and to struggle. I heard that 100 times, maybe a couple hundred times before it started to click, of life is to strive and to struggle, not to succeed. And when it started to click, I realized, man, that's where the most satisfaction comes from. Intense work. As Ramatirtha, he was asked, what is rest? And this was 120 years ago. In the U.S., he was giving lectures throughout the U.S. And a person in the audience said, can you define rest? And he said, intense work is rest. Sacrifice, striving, struggling, and doing what you ought to do, that is more satisfying than a nap or 8 hours in your bed. That's why many of the greats, they love, Kobe Bryant used to work out 4 times a day. Michael Jordan would be the first and the last in the gym. I know these things because of growing up playing basketball. Now, surfing and loving following all of these surfers online, it's insane the workout regimens that they submit themselves to. The breath holding exercises. And that's not even the 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 foot waves that they also submit themselves to go and ride. There was one post I saw recently, one of the best surfers in the world, this guy, Nathan Florence. He had paddled the distance of a marathon, paddling his arms more than 26 miles. and probably felt, given that he now wants to break 30 miles, probably felt a sense of satisfaction that is so rarely found in anything that we conventionally think of as rest. Life is to strive and to struggle, not to succeed. It's not the post about paddling 26 miles. It is the satisfaction you feel during, after, in preparation for the next crazy, intense work, intense session of work that I can't even imagine how hard that would be on the body. And yet he is, in fact, this year, I think he was voted Surfer of the Year. Not a coincidence. Tapping into that satisfaction. And we actually know this through neurochemistry, that the optimal neurochemical satisfaction, which isn't just a bit of dopamine, a bit of serotonin, but serotonin, dopamine, and oxytocin. Sounds jargony. But those three, the optimal neurochemical equation for satisfaction, for optimal feelings of satisfaction, comes from working with our hands. You have dopamine, serotonin, and oxytocin, your body, the rhythm of your neurochemistry and feelings of optimal satisfaction comes from work. In the book of Genesis, before the fall, there was work. Aristotle once said that happiness is a being at work in accordance with virtue. We spend so much of our life getting away from work, getting away from striving and struggling, moving towards milestones that we can show others that we succeeded, show ourselves that we succeeded. But when we do that, we never really live. When we do that, we're on the beach watching other people surf. Other people tap into how the universe is wired. Benjamin Franklin once said that most men commit suicide at 25. The majority just take 50 years to do it. I know this from experience when I thought I was circumventing the system, taking a shortcut, doing what I could to get as much as I could for myself, and then I would sacrifice. Then I would give. And I'd never been more stressed, more depleted. Running a company with 50 employees at 26 years old, going to the ER with a heart condition and having my heart paddled back into rhythm because I was so stressed, exhausted, and depleted. I was trying to get away from striving and struggling. And in doing so, I was getting away from what life is, what life is meant to be, what rest is. Instead of being out there paddling like crazy, trying to catch waves, I was trying to stay on the beach, hiring people to do that, trying to take the shortcuts to have the elation, but none of the investment of time, energy. I was trying to succeed and trying my best to not strive and to struggle. And it ended up being the most exhausting period of my life. Life is to strive and to struggle, not to succeed. And that is so counter to the 3,000 messages you'll be told each and every day in our society to the contrary. But that is why so many people live in quiet desperation. In that vein of that Benjamin Franklin quote, and are so close to it, but never really experience life. Here for it, but a few rows back, a few feet from the water, not in the waves, not on the court, not in the gym when everybody is asleep. A near-life experience. That's today's reflection on the Daily Vedantic. We'll see you next time.